And the final part of our puzzle with the Apache web server is to implement it as a web proxy server. By implementing a web proxy server, we can ensure that we can keep all of our web clients local so they don't need to traverse out to the internet. The proxy server will make our internet requests for us. So to enable the proxy server, we can first check to see if it's loaded, but don't worry, it's not likely to be by default. We can enable both the proxy module and the proxy_HTTP. Proxy allows proxy, but then we have to say for which protocol. That will allow for HTTP and HTTPS. When editing our configuration file found under mods available, we need to make sure that proxy requests are turned on. In our proxy block, we can go through and make sure that we are not implementing an open proxy, so require all denied. If we just left it like this, nobody would be able to access the proxy server. However, we're going to allow our IP block for our network. What we don't want to do is implement an open proxy where anyone can use it. If we did that, then you can be certain that people would soon find it and use it for all kinds of things that we wouldn't want them to be using our server for. Once we've finished, we can close off our proxy block and then go through and restart our server. So that's the work on the server done. Our server is now a proxy server. We need to implement then our client. Often where we're using graphical browsers, we would configure the property of the browser. But from the command line with our W3M browser, we can set our variable. So making sure it's an environment variable so it can be used by both the shell and any commands issued from the shell, we can set then HTTP_proxy in lowercase to our web server. Once we've done that, we can browse the web and it will appear just as normal. To see that we are actually going via the Ubuntu 2 system, we can check the Apache access logs and we'll see that we made a request through to pluralsight.com from our client. And that's exactly what we're going to take a look at now. Moving out to our Apache web server, we're going to turn it into a proxy server. We're going to reduce the number of clients needing to access the internet directly because they'll go via the proxy server. And we're going to enable the proxy and proxy HTTP modules. We can then configure the modules so we've got the desired security that we need. So come on, let's find that command line. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm getting very excited about this, implementing a web proxy server in Apache. So if we go through and look at enabling our modules, so A2 nmod, and we want two modules. So we want the proxy module, which enables then our proxying, but we also need the relevant protocol module, so proxy_HTTP. We've enabled both, and we can see that there is a dependency on proxy_HTTP to make sure that proxy is already loaded. So this is good, and we're almost ready to go. But let's not restart the Apache service yet, because we do need to configure the proxy server. If I look at the configuration file, so that's going to be our /etc and Apache 2. Looking in our mods-enabled subdirectory, this is where the symbolic links are, and we can then point to proxy.conf. Now you can see everything is commented out, but we can move down to enable our proxy request. So this turns us into a proxy server. We can then uncomment any of the other lines. Now require all denied is making sure nobody has access. If I uncomment the require local, that gives access to the local system, but we need access for our network. So we're going to change this to require IP, and then again, same as we did before, putting in the subnet address for our client. So 192.168.56.0/24. And that's all there really is to it. We can save our change, and now we can go and restart our service. So sudo and systemctl restart and our glorious Apache 2 service. So this will then mean that we are now operating as a web proxy server. And if we move to our client, which is going to be Ubuntu 1, we're going to be able to test this. So see the prompt now, we're working on Ubuntu 1, and we need to set our variable, so it can be used from the command line, http_proxy equals, and then where we need to go through to. So http://ubuntu 2.local. Once we've got that set correctly, it's going to work then for anything within this shell. So we can run w3m. And first of all, just check that www is still available to us. So we can still see our normal welcome page. So we're not losing access to the web server itself. But if we then try and access an external resource, the client won't need to go out to Pluralsight. The proxy server goes for us. Now, of course, we don't see it in glorious Technicolor. We're seeing the command line version only of it, but we can see that we're accessing the Pluralsight website. So let's go through and quit out of this. And moving back now to our proxy server on Ubuntu 2, if we check the access log, so Control R, and look for access, that's then tailing the last two lines of the access log, and we can see that we did successfully gain access to the www site, but then we made a request to www.pluralsight.com, and we can see that we have a different access code, 301 rather than 200, saying it's permanently redirected. So we made the request for the client. Now, with this done and dusted, we're about finished with Apache, but let's move back to our slides so we might summarize a little of what we've looked at.